Hey everybody, we're live. Thank you for your patience and welcome to this session with my friend Emma Green, the tennis elbow queen. I like how that rhymes really well. But we're here to show you, and really Emma's here to show you a great, slew of exercises you can do to help with tennis elbow. So first off, Emma, thanks for coming on. And how are you doing?
I am great. Thanks so much for having me, Mirban. And you would not believe the technology challenges that Mirban and I have been through. Like literally 2 laptops, and I'm now on my phone. But I'm here. We made it.
Yeah, 100%. We're here and it's all good. So yeah, I'm really excited to get through with it. And we have some peeps here. Steven, hello from La Mirada, California. Hello, Steven. Tom here again. Is it really day 6? Yes, it is actually somehow. Richard, good morning from Dallas, Texas. We'll answer your question in a second. I'll just say hi to some more people. Let's see who we got here. Mark, hey, if I cannot stay for the whole thing, will it be available later as well? It definitely will. Bruce, amazing week of content. Super job, Mirban. Thank you to all the presenters too. Pleasure. Thanks for coming. Good stuff. Cool. And we have some people who have said that they have suffered from tennis elbow. We got Steven years ago when first trying poly. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now you just use multi-filaments. That's smart. So, yeah, Emma, I guess however you want to do it. I mean, we could answer the question from Richard, or we could just go into the routine, however you want to do it.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to go either way. I absolutely love questions. So I'll definitely answer each and every question that anybody has.
Yeah.
Maybe if I give a little bit of a background, just because I'm going to suggest certain things that people are going to be kind of like, whoa, what is she talking about? This is supposed to be about elbows. And then all of a sudden she's talking about something else. So maybe if I give a little bit of background to why some of the things I give my tennis players, my tennis elbow sufferers, why these things are a little different to maybe what you've heard before. How does that sound?
That sounds real good.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So once again, I just wanted to say thank you so much for your patience in me having such technology issues trying to get on here. And I do appreciate you spending your time with me right now. This has been an amazing summit. It's been my first time at the summit. And having watched some of the sessions this week, I have been blown away by the content. It's been absolutely amazing. So fantastic job.
Thank you.
And I really wanted to share what I teach, which is tennis elbow relief. I teach people how to heal tennis elbows. I've been doing this now for 13 years. It wasn't always the case. I always wanted to work with sport. I knew that. I'm a physical therapist, physiotherapist, if you're in the UK. Probably tell from my accent, that's where I do herald from. I worked with sport for about 10 years over there before coming over here, and ended up getting into tennis elbow actually through a professional drummer who had suffered with tennis elbow for about 18 months, had tried everything and just could not get back to playing. So when I say could not get back to playing, this is what I now hear from a lot of my tennis players. So tennis players will come to me and say, I've had tennis elbow, I've been through the regular rehab, I just cannot get back to playing. I cannot get back on court. Every time I hit the ball, it just gives me that little reminder, and that's my problem. So I started to look at, well, what is the issue? What's going on here with these tennis players? What's going on here with these musicians? These are very high level activities, obviously. I've been watching some of these videos over this week, and it's all about power. It's all about how hard you can hit that ball, how accurately you can hit it. And there's a lot of force going through your body when you're doing those certain movements. And what tended to happen when I was listening to my tennis players is that they were rehabbing and doing certain weighted exercises, which you need to do to heal tendons, to like 2 or 3 pounds. And I was like, that is nowhere near heavy enough. And that was often the problem, is that when tennis players wanted to get back to playing so intensively, they were using these weenie weights that were never going to be heavy enough for getting them back to doing what they wanted to do. So that was one of the sort of like aha moments that I had during this tennis elbow journey. And then when I tell people how heavy they need to get, they're kind of like, oh, I'll never get to that. So let me share that with you. So to be comfortable doing normal activities around the house, you need to be working with weights between 5 and 8 pounds. So I always try and convert it. That's about like what, 2.5 kilos to 4.5 kilos, something like that. That's light stuff around the house. To be doing moderate activities, you need to be between 8 and 12 pounds. To be playing tennis, you need to be 12 pounds plus. You might even be 15 pounds plus, 20, even 25 pounds, doing specific weighted exercises to heal the tendon. Now, many of the tennis players will say, oh, I'll never get to that. I'll never get up to it. And they do, you know, slowly, surely, progressively over time, they do. But I started to realize that a lot of the exercises I was giving my tennis players and my tennis elbow sufferers to heal their elbows could actually be used preventatively. So that's where I want to start today, is with the things that anybody can do and everybody should do to prevent tennis elbow, because it's way easier to prevent it than it is to treat it once you've got it. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. So tennis elbow, just to give you a little bit of background, is basically an overuse type issue generally. There are a couple of other causes, but generally it's an overuse type issue. So I do see it in players who have started to increase the amount that they're playing. It may be a change of biomechanics. It may be that they've changed their grip. It may be that they've changed their racket. They have changed the strings. So something has changed, and it's generally 3 to 6 months before you start feeling the symptoms. So we always look back, you know, what was 3 to 6 months ago? Now, in prevention, there's one super simple exercise. It's a super simple stretch that you can do. And if you did this before you play and after you play, every time you're on court, you drastically reduce your chance of getting tennis elbow. Because tennis elbow is this overuse issue, tennis elbow is a tendon problem. So it's the tendon, which is a connective tissue essentially, the tendon that attaches right to the bony part of the elbow on the outside here. It connects these forearm muscles, which obviously you're using when you're gripping. These forearm muscles attach to the bone via the tendon, and the tendon becomes injured in tennis elbow. Now, many times what's happening here is these muscles here get so tight that they start tugging on the tendon. Every time you grip, these muscles tension, they're tugging on the tendon. That goes on over a period of time. That's what causes the tendon to become injured and fail. Now, if we can decrease the muscle tension through here, it's not going to pull on the tendon. That's what this stretch does. We take the muscle tension down. We take that tension out of the muscle. We're not pulling on the tendon is happy. So this stretch that I'm going to teach you right now, is everybody ready? If you're multitasking, come back to me, because this is the stretch that you need to prevent tennis elbow. So I'm going to show it to you in a couple of different ways. I'm going to show you straight out. So I'm going to put my arm straight out in front of me. My palm is down towards the floor. Fingers are going to go down towards the floor. The palm of my hand is going to go to the back of my hand, and I'm going to pull that in. I'm going to show you this from the side so you can see my arm is out straight. Now, you may have seen this stretch. This is a very common stretch that people teach for getting rid of tennis elbow. Now, I don't teach it up here. I tend to take it down here. So imagine that same position, but you're just taking your arms down. That's where you are. The reason I do that is this is a little more stress on the shoulder. We don't want to injure the shoulder in any way. It also puts more tension on the nerves when we're here. You're going to get the same stretch and decrease in muscle tension by taking it down here. We're just taking the strain off the shoulder and the nerves. So it's going to be down there. You're going to hold that stretch for 30 seconds. So it's quite a long time, and you need to time it, because it's not like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you know, that's too fast. It needs to be 30 seconds. The research shows us that any stretch less than 30 seconds is kind of good warm-up stretch, but you're not actually decreasing the tension in the muscle. And to prevent tennis elbow, we want to decrease the muscle tension. So you're going to do it for 30 seconds. You're going to hold that stretch for 30 seconds. Because it's such a long time, you're going to do it once and you are done. So you do that before you go out on court. You do that when you finish. So at the end of play, you're going to do 1 30-second stretch. You've brought that tension down. Now, that will prevent tennis elbow. That one stretch, if you have no elbow issues right now, that one stretch will prevent tennis elbow. So I would love for you to start doing that one from right now. It literally takes you a minute. It's 30 seconds at the start of play. It's 30 seconds at the end of play. Done. You will never have to worry about it at all. Now, if you do have a little niggle in your elbow, you probably, if you're on this session, you're kind of like, tennis elbow, maybe I've kind of got that. If you do have a niggle in your elbow, that stretch is going to help to heal it, because as I said, the muscle tension going up is irritating the tendon. That's what causes tennis elbow. So doing that stretch is going to bring it back down. So that's something that you are going to do to start healing your elbow, bringing that muscle tension down. And yes, you're going to do it, if you're still able to play and you can play comfortably, you're going to do it before you play, you're going to do it after the play, just as we said. You're going to do it additionally through every single day as well. So for healing tennis elbow, I advocate a lot of heat. And this goes against what many people say. They say, well, I was told to put ice on it. Shouldn't I put ice on it? And ice is really good at reducing inflammation. Remember when I said about how tennis elbow starts? There's something 3 to 6 months ago that triggered this. So before you're feeling it, probably 3 to 6 months ago is when that inflammation is starting. So ice could be helpful then. Or maybe in the first 2 or 3 days when you're first feeling it, if it's brand new, 2 to 3 days in, ice can sometimes be helpful. Once you've gone past that stage, there's really not a lot of inflammatory cells for that ice to work on. So switch it to heat. Heat tends to work better for this. The reason for that is a couple of reasons. The first thing, heat will decrease muscle tension. If you've ever kind of, I don't know, lay out in the sun, perhaps I shouldn't say that, but if it's sort of a warm sunny day and you're on the beach, you get that relaxation. If you put a heating pad around your neck, it's like, you get that relaxation. Think spa days. Heat decreases muscle tension. So we want to do that. We want to decrease the muscle tension. So I advocate a lot of heat, and heat through the forearm muscles will decrease that muscle tension. Heating around the elbow itself and over the tendon is going to help to increase the circulation. Tendons have a poor blood supply. It's just anatomically, they don't have a very good blood supply. It's just the way they're made. But unfortunately, what we need for healing is a good circulation, because the blood flow brings the building blocks for healing that tissue needs. The tendon doesn't have a good blood supply, so it struggles to heal. This is why you'll sometimes hear people say, oh, once you've got tennis elbow, that's it. You got it for life. You'll never get rid of that. Or people have it for years. I have heard of people suffering with tennis elbow for 20 years. And that is unnecessary. It does not have to last that long at all. So, but we've got to get the circulation going to the tendon to allow that tendon to heal. Heat will do that. Yourself, if you put a heating pad on your arm, when you take your heating pad off, you can see that increase in circulation. You can see that sort of red area underneath where the heating pad was. You can see that there's been an increase in blood flow to that area. Heat does that very nicely. So you're going to heat your elbow, and you're going to heat through your forearm as well to bring that muscle tension down and to get the circulation going to the tendon. Now, once you've had the heat on and that muscle tension is decreased, perfect time to stretch. So you're going to stretch after the heat or every time you're warm. So for example, if you've had a hot bath or shower, you're going to do that stretch. If you have been out walking the dog and it's hot outside, get home, do that stretch. If you've been playing at the end, you're going to do that stretch. If you've been in the jacuzzi, you're going to do that stretch. So anytime through the day where your body temperature is up a little higher than it has been normally, you're going to capitalize on that and use the stretch, because that's going to be really helpful to bring that muscle tension down. Now, if you do have a heating pad, I recommend that you use it at least 5 times a day, which is a lot, or preferably every hour if you can. Every hour through the day, the more heat you can get into there, the faster you're going to kickstart the healing. So I used to say to people, 2 to 3 times a day, get the heat on, that's going to be sufficient. And then I had 2 clients completely independently of each other. So one was here in the US, one was in the UK, completely independently. Both heated way more than I suggested, and both got better faster. I was like, okay, so let's heat the heck out of this. So the more heat you can put through, and this is not how hot it is. If it's too hot, you're going to either burn the skin, which is not a good situation because then you can't heat it, or the muscles are going to start tightening up because your body's self-preservation mechanism is going to kick in, and your body's going to be kind of like, wait, am I going to get injured here? And it starts tensioning the muscles. And that's the complete opposite of the effect we want. So bringing that muscle tension down is just a really nice, comfortable warmth, just, you know, almost like dropping off to sleep, almost relaxing. We want that relaxation. So they're the things that you can start to heal the tendon. I know I've been rattling on there a little bit, Mehban. Do you have any questions? And has anybody popped any questions in? Anything I need to cover?
Yeah, definitely. Great stuff so far, Emma. Really appreciate it. So we'll go to Richard, and we have a couple others too. I have a one-handed backhand, and if I hit a high backhand above my shoulder, I feel the stress on my forearm. But at a golfer's elbow, is the treatment the same? Great question.
That is a great question. And the principles are exactly the same, because golfer's elbow is exactly the same issue with the tendon, but on the inside of the elbow rather than the outside of the elbow. It is still, where the tendon attaches to the bone. These forearm muscles are attached to the tendon, through the tendon to the bone. So it's exactly the same pathology, just a different part of the body. So yes, the principles are exactly the same. Ice for the first 3 days, switch to the heat, get the heat going, you know, so that's exactly the same. The stretch, it's still a stretch that you're going to do to prevent and to heal, but the stretch is slightly different. So again, I'm going to show you that one. It's again, arm out to in front of you, but your palm is to the ceiling. Then we're going to go palm to palm, and we're going to pull your fingers down this way. So if I show you from the side, we're now that way. Remember, for tennis elbow, we have the palm down and we pull this way. For golfer's elbow, we have the palm up and we pull this way. Don't pull on your fingers. Sometimes I see people kind of really cranking on the fingers. That actually doesn't increase the stretch through the muscle, but it just increases the tension on the nerve, and you don't want to irritate a nerve. So we're going to go palm to palm, stretching out that way. And again, you can still do it down here. We're going to take the tension off the shoulder. We're going to take the tension off the nerves by bringing it down here. Same rules apply though. It's going to be a 30-second hold. If you are starting to feel these, I would definitely say do it before play, do it after play, get the heat going, maybe see if you can do it through the day as well, just to decrease that muscle tension. Now, if a tendon has started to become irritated, the stretching is going to be beneficial. So the program that I developed for the professional drummer who came into my office 13 years ago with tennis elbow, the program that I developed for him, I pulled in all the research for tennis elbow, just kind of looked at what worked and what didn't work, and there wasn't a whole lot of evidence there. So we created a new way of treating the tendon for tennis elbow. And I've since adapted it for golfer's elbow as well, biceps tendons, triceps tendons. It kind of covers all of the tendons around the elbow. Now, there's a very specific way of healing it, and I mentioned that at the beginning with regards to weighted exercises that need to be heavy. And you do need to be heavy. There's a specific exercise for tennis elbow, there's a specific exercise for golfer's elbow, but it's progressively building it up and it's progressively loading it. Now, my program is split into 4 different phases. Phase 1 is all about getting pain under control. Phase 2 is about normalizing soft tissues, which is what we've been talking about here with the stretches. Phase 3 is where we add the strengthening in. Many people will jump to the strengthening exercise because they think that's what they've got to do. But if you strengthen without bringing the muscle tension down, all you're doing is tugging on that tendon, and it's just going to make it worse. So that's why we've got to bring the muscle tension down before we start the strengthening exercises. So the strengthening exercises are what heal the tendon. They reverse the damage that is in that tendon. And then phase 4 gets you back to doing everything you want to do completely safely without any chance of recurrence. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that's perfect. Thanks, Emma. And let's see what else we have. And if there's follow-up, obviously, feel free. Let's see. So we've got years ago when, oh yeah, we had that one. So Tom, yes, I had tennis elbow pretty bad about 15 years ago. 1 cortisone shot and rest plus rehab lasted 8 months. Another one lasted 3 months. Another one lasted 3 weeks. Ended up having surgery. Wow. So have you seen a lot of that, Emma, and any kind of ideas on how to prevent that sort of thing from reoccurring like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And so what we've discovered and what we've learned about cortisone is that, well, cortisone is a very strong anti-inflammatory. And so back in the 50s, they discovered that cortisone was like this sort of magic panacea. They could inject football players every week, get them out onto the pitch and onto the field, and they could play. So, you know, we kind of thought we found the elixir of youth. But 10 to 20 years later, what we found were these football players started literally falling apart, because cortisone actually degrades soft tissue. So it's great. It's a very strong anti-inflammatory and it can settle problems down, but it weakens soft tissues and it can cause damage to them. So the current thought now is that actually cortisone shots are not the correct treatment for tendons anymore. It's not something that is used for that reason. There's also other research that's come out more recently that actually just even the putting a needle into a tendon is detrimental to that tendon, just because of the pathology of it and the nature of the anatomy of the tendon. Doesn't like holes being poked into it, which you can kind of understand. So cortisone doesn't heal the tendon. Cortisone was always very much a working on the symptoms. Let's settle the pain. You're good to go play. But what we know is that if you do an ultrasound scan of a normal tendon on an ultrasound scan, so, you know, like sort of the ultrasound scans that we do on pregnant ladies when you see the baby, you get to see the picture of the tendon. The tendon is, imagine it's like a really tightly wound rope. That's what a normal tendon should look like. Now, a tendon that has tennis elbow or golfer's elbow, any kind of issue like that, imagine that rope unraveling. That's what happens to the tendon in these overuse issues. And the fibers are not together anymore. They come apart. Cells get in there that shouldn't be there. That's what causes the irritation. Now, we know that the old treatments that we used to try for this type of issue sometimes would settle, and people would be like, I've been great for however many months. If you did an ultrasound scan on that same tendon that was now feeling fine, the tendon still looked damaged because it was not healed. It's just the symptoms were kind of masked almost because the tendon had not healed. Now, the new way of treating, I say new way, I mean, it's been around for 20 years. The new way of treating is that we load these tendons in a very specific way, and that load reverses that damage to the tendon. So the tendon heals with the correct load going through it. So it's my mission to save 100,000 elbows from unnecessary injections and surgeries, because there is a way. There's a way that you can do it without any of those invasive procedures. I do work with clients who have had surgeries in the past. I do work with clients who've had injections in the past, and maybe the not so distant past. There's always something new coming out because people are so desperate. People don't realize how debilitating tennis elbow can be. And, you know, people have tried all kinds of different injections, not just cortisone. So there's a whole load of different things that people try, but they don't actually heal the tendon. It's this specific loading that heals the tendon. And that's what you have to do to fully heal it. Now, the downside to that, which I know it sounds crazy, there's a downside to fully healing the tendon, but the downside to it is it does take time. We know from the medical research, when they've looked at the physiology of the tendon, it takes a full year of doing the correct things to heal the tendon, but it can fully heal. So it's definitely not an overnight fix. You know, sometimes you'll hear these things like, fix your tennis elbow in 5 minutes. It's like, well, you know, the medical research tells us it takes a year of doing the correct things. So it does take a year of doing the right things. That doesn't mean to say you're going to be feeling pain for a year either. You know, many of my clients are pain-free within a couple of weeks, but they know they have to do the exercises for a full 12 months in order that it doesn't come back ever. That's the difference.
Brilliant. Great stuff, Emma. Maybe we'll take one more and then let you keep going, I guess, if that works. Thanks. Bruce, is it okay to do that tennis elbow exercise on non-playing days as part of a regular exercise routine, or is the benefit of that unknown, so just do on playing days?
Yeah, I would, if you are open to doing it every single day, that would be amazing. We all should stretch. you know, and we don't. That I just, you know, my little dog, I don't know if you heard him pattering around. The first thing he does when he gets out of bed in the morning, what does he do? You know, if you think of our animals, our cats, our dogs, they stretch. Nobody's told them to, but they stretch. We should too. And, you know, so many people don't stretch until they have a problem. The stretching can prevent those problems. So if you're open to stretching every day, that would be amazing. I would love that. You're definitely going to be preventing a lot of problems in the future by doing that. So yeah, stretch every day.
Brilliant. Thanks, Emma. So I guess I'll let you keep going and then we'll go back to questions if that works.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So I know I said I was going to tell you a little bit about what I do and why I do it, because some of the things I recommend are quite different. One of the biggest things that I sort of realized as I was pulling all this research in to help heal this drummer 13 years ago was that tennis elbow. And, you know, when I was sort of training as a physio, you kind of think tennis elbow is such a simple diagnosis. It's right there. It's that tendon, boom, that's it. And I started to realize that no, that's not it. Tennis elbow is multifactorial. There are so many things that affect it. We've talked about some of the overuse things, and they're crucial to address, and they're crucial to sort of see, you know, are these the things that are causing the problem? But we've also got to look within the body as well, because everything is connected. And what I was finding as I started to peel back these layers on my tennis elbow sufferers, particularly the ones that had suffered for a long period of time, is that it wasn't just the elbow that we needed to work on. They had issues around their shoulder. They had issues around their neck. They had issues around their mid-back. They had core weakness. They had all of these other knock-on effects. Now, I'll use the analogy of, you know, if you drop a pebble into a pond, those ripples go out and they go further and further and further and further and further over time. So if you imagine tennis elbow as the epicenter, over time, the longer you have it, the more likely you are to get issues coming up here, the more likely you are to get issues spreading down here. That is very, very common. So then what happens is somebody suffered with tennis elbow for 6 months. They end up going to see the doc. They send them for rehab and they focus on the elbow, not realizing that now they've got something going on in the shoulder. And as that elbow starts to feel better, they start trying to get back on court. Now the problem in the shoulder is going to flare the elbow up. And it's just this kind of circle of, I feel better, it comes back. I feel better, it comes back, because not every single issue has been addressed. So when I started uncovering this, I was like, okay, so clearly we need to do work around the shoulder. We need to do strengthening work for the shoulder blade. We need to do strengthening work for the rotator cuff in certain cases. There may be issues with the neck. I say 95% of the tennis elbow clients I see have something going on with the neck. It is a high number. And then the other thing that is affected are the nerves. And this is where people start going, I don't think my nerves are affected. No, nothing wrong with my nervous system. Again, 95% of my clients who have this neck issue have something going on with the nerves. It's very common. And again, if we look back to the research, we see a high correlation between sciatica and Achilles tendon problems. There's that high correlation. If someone has an Achilles tendon problem, they 95% of the time will have a tension in the sciatic nerve. That needs addressing, because if you don't address it, then that tendon is never going to settle down. I started seeing the same things in my tennis elbow sufferers. So there are 3 main nerves that come out of the neck and go all the way down to the tips of the fingers. And when I would test these nerves, oftentimes I would find tension in these nerves that was affecting the tendon, because what's happening is the nervous system is becoming hypersensitized. Now, that can be due to chronic pain. Chronic pain, by very definition, is pain that you've suffered for 3 months or longer. So anybody who's had pain for 3 months or longer, you are suffering chronic pain. Chronic pain is something that we're still learning about, but we know chronic pain changes biochemistry in the brain. Feel chronic pain for long enough, it can make anatomical changes in the brain, actual physical changes in the brain, which that blows my mind. So just from feeling pain. So what we have to do is we've got to reverse those changes, because these biochemical changes and potentially these anatomical changes in the brain, they will then have you perceive pain more quickly, because basically the brain has been getting these messages, pain, 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 and it kind of goes, okay, I get it, pain. Yes, we're feeling pain all the time. So then the slightest little touch can be felt as pain when it shouldn't be. So that is a hypersensitized nervous system. And I started to uncover this in my tennis elbow sufferers. And again, if you don't address that, that tendon is never going to heal. So what I started to do was I started to introduce calming strategies for the nervous system from day one in my program. And this is where people's eyes sometimes glaze over, or they're like, okay, she's just gone this with this. This makes no sense. Because I would tell my clients, I would say, okay, 30 minutes of cardio every single day outside in nature. And they would kind of go, what? I'm not going to walk on my hands. Like, this is for my elbow, remember? I'm walking on my hands. And be like, no. It's okay. Because cardio exercise is really good. Remember, we want to increase that circulation to the tendon. Cardio exercise is great, is a greater increase in our circulation. So we're going to use that to increase the circulation to the tendon. By being outside and in nature, what we're utilizing is a strategy called forest bathing. And there's a lot of research coming out of Japan recently with regards to forest bathing and the positive effects it has on brain biochemistry. So we know that it can decrease stress hormones. We know that it can make those chronic pain changes reverse. We know that it increases our happy hormones. We know that it increases our endorphins, which are our body's own natural painkillers. So, we kind of want more of those whizzing around. So it helps, in essence, to reboot the brain. Because the brain and the nervous system is hypersensitized, and that is a problem, because if the nerves are firing more frequently, what they're doing is they're sending messages to the muscles to say, switch on, switch on, switch on, switch on, switch on. When the muscles get those messages, they're tight. Remember, that's what causes the tennis elbow. That's what causes the tugging on the tendon and the damage to the tendon. So we want to decrease that muscle tension. So we have to address the nervous system, because you can have the heat on all day, you can do massage as much as you like, but if the nervous system is still sending all those messages, those muscles are going to stay tight. So we have to decrease that sensitivity, and getting out and seeing nature and seeing green things, forest bathing, will help to make those changes. So I recommend my clients do that. I also recommend meditation for the same reason. We know that we get those similar chemical changes in the brain when we do meditation. Now, this is sometimes a new concept to a lot of people, and I kind of like, if you just want to start with one thing and see how you do. But I found all of these different strategies, when we put them together, that's what helps you to heal tennis elbow the fastest. Why would you leave any of them out? If everything is going to be helpful and everything plays a part, and it's logical. I'm a very logical person. It has to make sense to me, which is why I do a lot of explanation to my clients, because if I told somebody to just go outside and walk in nature to heal their elbow, they'd never come back. And rightly so, because they think, okay, she doesn't know what she's talking about. But to explain what's going on in the nervous system and explain the changes that we're trying to make in the nervous system, and that this can do it this way, it's what the research shows us. Let's utilize that strategy. So 30 minutes of cardio every single day outside in nature starts calming the nervous system down. And there are different things that I add in through the program that continue to work on the nervous system.
Wow, that is super insightful. Definitely something you would not have thought of for tennis elbow, but I really love it. That's why we have the expert on here. So I love that. I guess we'll get to a couple of questions, or let me see if there's any industrial reaction. Yeah, it's more of general questions at the moment. So how about this one? Why is polyester bad for avoiding, or maybe it's bad for avoiding tennis elbow?
Yeah, great question. I mean, when you think about, we're talking about the overuse aspect to tennis elbow. We've got to look at all the different factors that can play into that. It can be grip. It can be physically the grip. It can be the way you're gripping. It can be the weight of the racket. It can be how frequently you're playing. It can be the intensity that you're playing. All of these different things will play a factor, including the strings. So, Generally, if you have your strings strung really tightly, that can lead to tennis elbow. But everybody's different. Every now and again, it can just be a subtle change. It can be a change from one thing to another. And everybody is different. Sometimes it's kind of like, well, what's the gold standard? What's the best thing? And there's no one best thing for everybody. And that's the hard part. If everybody was the same, you'd all need the same things, but not everybody is the same. But when you've just got to look at the amount of force going through that area, and that force is what can then negatively affect that tendon over time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, great stuff. Yeah, 100%. And for sure, when I switched to a thicker gauge of polyester strings, I experienced some pain as well, and then I had to kind of switch it to a thinner gauge, and then that helped a lot. So certainly, poly is one of the rougher strings to to play with, but it has its perks as well. So let's see. Bruce, I'm sure you will cover the topic of braces. I see many players using them. Should we tackle that now or save it for later? What would you prefer?
Yeah, let's dive in. Yeah, let's dive in. That's a great question. So there are many different types of braces out there on the market. In fact, I spoke to a tennis player a couple of years ago who'd spent over $800 and had, 8 different braces sitting in his closet. Braces are great in certain circumstances and limited circumstances. So the tennis elbow braces, and probably the most classic one you've seen, is like the strap that goes around the forearm. Basically, the theory for that is it doesn't go over the tendon, so you don't put it over the area that is uncomfortable. It goes about an inch below, and it goes around the forearm muscles, and it is as tight as you can tolerate without your hand going blue or tingling. What you're doing with that tension around that area is you're kind of essentially squeezing the muscle to take the tension off the tendon. Now, that does work. It takes the tension off the tendon. But what it does when you have that strap squeezing around that muscle of the forearm there, the muscles underneath go, oh, something is doing my job. I don't need to work. And they switch off. Now, what we find with tennis elbow is because it hurts, you use the muscles less. This happens subconsciously. When you use the muscles less, the muscles start to weaken, and that happens very quickly, within like 24 hours, very, very fast. When you put something external like a brace on, that's what happens. So you've got something on there, it's taking the tension off the tendon, but the muscles don't have to work as hard while that strap is on, they will weaken. So ultimately what you're doing by wearing a strap is you are weakening those muscles. You are prolonging the length of time that it's going to take for you to recover, because ultimately we need to strengthen you up to allow the tissues to tolerate the stress and strain that's going through that area. With a strap on there or a brace on there, that's going to have the complete opposite effect, and you are going to get a weakening, and it will take you longer to recover. Now, I said it can be helpful in limited circumstances, and it can. So if sometimes I'll have clients coming to me and say, I'm moving house and I know I'm going to be lifting boxes, I know I'm going to be packing boxes. Okay, it's not forever. Maybe use a strap or brace at that time just to keep you comfortable while you're doing something out of the ordinary like that. Sometimes people will have a particular occupation where they have to work because they've got to feed the kids, and I'll say, yeah, you know what, put a strap on while you're at work. I had a chef who was doing just tons and tons of chopping, and he had to work, so he would wear it at work. But we knew it was going to take him longer to fully rehab his elbow because of that. So if there's a situation like that where you have to do something, a strap can be helpful. It needs to be thought of as a very short-term strategy. And it's definitely not a, have it in your bag every time you go and play tennis. If that's the case, you will never recover from tennis elbow. It's always going to be a part of it. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, most definitely. Thank you, Emma. Great explanation. Another one, Jason Bourne, great name again. If when I do the exercise, my fingers can almost touch my arm, does it mean my forearm muscle is already loose? And does this stretch exercise is that still helpful? I'm suffering with tennis elbow, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. So you are still going to get a stretch through the muscles. So think about the muscles are attached to this bony part of the elbow. They come through the forearm and they go into your hand. So we want to get sort of the two ends of that muscle tendon complex as far apart from each other as we possibly can. So by straightening the elbow out, taking the fingers down and then pulling in, you don't want to be kind of curling the fingers round. That's not going to give you an increased any increased benefit to decreasing the muscle tension in the forearm muscles. So just really sort of getting through your full range of motion in your wrist, you are going to get a stretch through those forearm muscles. And again, do it after the heat, because if you're warm, you're going to get a much more effective stretch, and make sure you're holding it long enough. You know, even if it feels easy for you, that's good. It shows that maybe there's not a lot of muscle tension there right now, and that's great. But get into the habit of doing it so that you're keeping that muscle tension down.
Great stuff. Thanks again, Emma. And another one, Tom, I'm the ortho surgeon. So far, she is right on. You want to prevent tennis elbow and not get it. Yes to 30-second hold and heat. Love to hear that.
Thank you.
Emma, should we let you keep going and then answer more questions afterwards? I know it's top of the hour, so I wasn't sure about your timing as well.
I'm good.
Okay.
One kid's up, one kid's still asleep, so I'm okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about the spine, because the other thing is, you know, often when I first see my clients initially, I bring out this guy. And they go, again, it's like, wait, this is my elbow. It's not my back. It's not my neck. What's going on? But 95% of my tennis elbow clients have something going on with their neck because they've had it for so long. That generally is the case. And I wanted to show you this. So I'm just going to, if I can show you this, you can see here, you've got the bones stacked one on top of the other, and you've got the discs in between. You can probably see these tiny little yellow things at the side. These are your nerves. Now, they're not that short. They come all the way down to the tips of your fingers, so that they travel all the way down the arms. But if you look at the side, can you see those little holes there? So that's where the little holes are where the nerves come out. Now, remember those holes. I'm going to show you a position of your neck. So many of us spend a lot of time in this position. You know, especially when I'm thinking of my teenagers, I spend a lot of time in this position. But most of the activities of daily life take us into that position. If you think about chopping vegetables, tying your shoes, we're on our laptops, you know, most of our day-to-day life, we are in that forward head position. Now, what that does is it closes down those holes in the spine where those nerves come out. As it closes that down, remember, hypersensitized nervous system, as we close those holes down, those nerves have less space to come out. And that can be what helps to perpetuate the problem with the nerves. And remember, if we don't calm the nervous system down, you're never going to heal that tendon because it's sending all of those messages. So what we want to do is open up the holes in the spine where the nerves come out, so that we're taking the strain off those nerves and allowing the nervous system to calm down. So there's a very simple exercise that I want to teach you that is going to do that. Now, I do this exercise myself as well every single day. It's really good for spine health. If you have any kind of elbow issue, shoulder issue, wrist and hand, neck issue, you need to be doing this exercise. So some of you may have done it before. It's sometimes referred to as chin tucks. So basically, if you're looking from the side, imagine my chin is on a table or something flat like that. You're just going to press back and then release. So you can see I'm not looking up, I'm not looking down, I'm just going straight back. And this is the first exercise that I generally give my tennis elbow clients, that generally, many of them are already doing the stretch. They've either found that online, or the doctors that send me their clients have already taught them the stretch, so they're doing that. This is the first exercise I give them once I've done the evaluation. I give this generally lying down. So I do it first thing in the morning before I get out of bed, last thing night before I go to sleep. So imagine you're lying down in bed. You can have a pillow under your head if that's comfortable. Some of my clients will do it completely flat. It's your choice. I do it with a pillow. And you're just going to press your head straight back. So you just press back into the pillow and then release, press back into the pillow, and then release. It's almost kind of like you're making a double chin, but that pushing back opens the holes in the spine for the nerves to come out of. So it's really kind to the nerves. So again, I would love for you all to start this. You can do it tonight when you get into bed. Try and remember this British accent in your head. Like, what did she say? On the back. Press your head back into your pillow. You don't need to hold it. It's just like get there and release. Get there and release. If this is a new exercise for you, do a very small range of motion. Keep it really, really tiny. This should none of the exercises I give you should give you pain. If your face is kind of starting to do this, that's not okay. So all exercises need to be comfortable. It's okay to feel a stretch, but it's not okay to feel pain. Same thing with the neck exercise when you're pushing back, keeping it really comfortable. It's okay to start with a small range of motion and build yourself up. 10 is all you need. It's super fast. You can get it done really quickly. But if you do 10 of those first thing in the morning and 10 of those last thing at night, every single day, not only are you helping to calm your nervous system down, helping to heal your elbow if that's the problem, you are setting yourself up for really good spine health in the future. So basically, in 20 years time, 30 years time, your spine is going to thank you for starting these exercises today. So if you take nothing else from this session and you do that, your spine health is going to be amazing in the future. Now, that's the exercise for the neck. I also look at how is the core working, particularly for my athletes and my musicians, because I want to uncover the reason that they developed tennis elbow. Many of my clients have been playing tennis for years, or they've been playing a musical instrument for years. Why all of a sudden did something come on? And it can sometimes be, is there a weakness around the shoulder blade? Is there a weakness around the core? We'll cover these during the evaluation. And sometimes it's like chicken and egg. Well, what came first? Was it the weakness in the core that led to the weakness in the shoulder that then transferred down the chain to the elbow, and that's where the problem arose? Or was it the problem with the elbow that then they started to change the way they were playing that gave them the issue with the shoulder that then affected the shoulder blade and the core? Sometimes it's hard to know, but at the end of the day, it needs addressing. So again, one of the first strengthening exercises I give my tennis elbow clients is core work and core strengthening. Mm-hmm. And I know there have been some amazing sessions in the summit today that are all about core training. So often it's hard, particularly for recreational players, because they just want to play. But you got to train to play and to be looking after your body. When I was watching some of the serving videos right at the beginning of the summit, when you look at the strain going through the shoulder, when you look at how the back is moving when you're going up for some of those serves, it's essential that you protect these tissues. And core training, core strength work is going to stabilize through the entire spine and pelvis. If you're stabilized through that, you've got a really strong base of support for your shoulder to work off of. If your core is stronger, you're going to be able to hit harder for sure, without a shadow of a doubt. If your shoulder is in a better position, there's going to be less stress and strain going through the elbow and forearm. So everything's connected, and that's why it's important to address some of these spine issues as well, even when we're thinking about tennis elbow.
Great stuff. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's see. Gosh, we have so many questions. Thanks. Jason Borton, other than the one-handed backhand, any other strokes that tend to cause tennis elbow? I mean, you talked about the serve a bit. Anything else?
For sure, backhand is always the one that people struggle with, especially that one-handed backhand. But sometimes it's more the grip and the fact that somebody is just like a death grip on their racket, regardless of how they're hitting the ball or what stroke they're doing, that can be the factor.
Yeah, brilliant. Let's see. Heat, warmth, duration each treatment period. Sorry, did you mention the length of time?
Perfect question. 10 minutes. It's a very superficial area here. The muscles and the tendon, very, very superficial. 10 minutes at a time is sufficient. But as I say, 10 minutes every hour is what you want to do. Do not go too hot. You know, definitely a nice comfortable warmth. You want that relaxation. You definitely don't want to be burning the tissues, because if you burn your skin, you can't then use the heat. So just be very mindful of that. But a nice comfortable warmth, 10 minutes every hour, and then you're going to do your stretches after that. Perfect.
Great, excellent. And so, question from Jason: what are your thoughts on Pete Sampras' serve where his elbow stays high after contact? So he kind of does like one of these where he keeps his. Any effect on the tennis elbow with that?
I mean, potentially there could be an effect on golfer's elbow as well, and also shoulder impingement. You know, coming into that type of position. But you know, sometimes we see the weirdest biomechanical movements in some of these absolute top players and athletes. I immediately think of Paula Radcliffe and the way she runs. And, you know, there's so many that are just completely what we would say wrong biomechanically, but just work for them. So it's not something that I would say try and emulate because of the negative effects through tennis elbow, golfer's elbow, shoulder impingement. But obviously it works for him.
Yeah, 100%. Let's see. Interesting that Emma mentioned shoulder injury. Would the tennis elbow treatment of heat, not ice, help with the shoulder injury not associated with elbow injury?
Yeah, absolutely. All of the principles that I describe are, they definitely apply to everything else as well. So for sure, even with the ice, you know, sort of the first 3 days, if it's a very acute injury, if you do something like, oh my goodness, what did I use straight away? Ice for 3 days, you know, something that's very fresh, very new, does benefit from that ice initially. If it's something that's been niggling at you for longer than that, you can definitely switch. Every now and again, I'll find somebody who actually prefers the ice. Sometimes, particularly with shoulders, if people can't sleep at night, to put ice on the shoulder just before they go to bed kind of numbs it off. And that can be helpful for people to sleep. So it kind of depends on what you're using it for. So if you're using the ice to numb off symptoms, that's okay. But heat generally works better on that relaxation through the muscles. It gets the circulation going a little better than the ice does.
Gotcha. Fantastic. Thanks again, Emma. Jerry, hi from Fairfax. Oh, that's not too far from me. Tom, she is on point with chronic pain, relaxation, mindfulness, and forest bathing or walks in nature. Good job. It takes guts for her to say it and combine them. Love that.
I've been saying it long enough. I'm like, yeah, I know it works. I know it works.
Yeah, 100%. Let's see. Jason Bourne, if it takes a year to heal the tendon, does it mean that we can't play tennis for a year?
No, not at all.
Phew.
Not at all. Not at all. Once you are pain-free, and again, you know, we're going through these, like there are 4 specific phases of healing the tendon. Phase 1, settling the pain down. Phase 2, normalizing the soft tissues, bringing that tension down. Phase 3, strengthening, healing the tendon. Phase 4, getting you back to doing everything that you want to do. Now, within those phases, there's some overlap. There's definitely some crossover. But once you are completely pain-free for a full week, doing all your normal activities, then we start to get people back onto court. So depending on how long they've had it, generally the shorter amount of time someone suffered, the faster we can get them back doing everything they want to do. You know, if somebody's had something for 18 months, for 5 years, it's going to take a little longer, but that doesn't mean to say that they can't do certain things. One of the strategies I actually use in phase 1, particularly for my athletes and musicians, is visualization. And visualization is something obviously that elite athletes use. So visualization is a really powerful tool for keeping those neurons like sharp and switched on so that you can hit the ground running when you are back playing. So I use this with all of my athletes, and it means that people, when they get back on court and when they do get back, oftentimes they're like playing as the best they ever have, because there's almost like, even though there's been like physical downtime, like the brain thinks you've been playing. That's essentially what visualization is. We're kind of tricking the brain, but in a good way, because when the brain is visualizing, the brain often can't tell the difference between what you're visualizing and what actually is happening, which again kind of blows my mind. But we use that principle when you use visualization. You are just imagining yourself. You are in that moment fully. So, you know, you're hearing the sounds on court, you're hearing the ball bounce, you're feeling the sun on your face, you can smell the grass in the distance, you know, all of these, you are immersed in that moment. You can feel the racket in your hand, you can feel the ball in your hand, you can feel the impact when the racket hits the ball, even though you're not moving. But your brain is sending the neural messages as though you are doing those movements. And when you're visualizing the serving, the strokes, everything that you're doing, and you're doing it perfectly, you're strengthening those neural pathways. And so even when somebody cannot physically be on court, we use these strategies to keep them like ready to go as soon as they're able to get back on. When they're starting to feel more comfortable, we start adding in certain movements. We get them doing particular movements that had been uncomfortable. This all needs to be pain-free. So we get them moving, going through the movements without the racket to start with, so that we are open palm, we're not holding on to anything. When that is comfortable, we start to add in the racket, and we start to move without hitting the ball. We start to progress through those movements. Once that's comfortable, then we start to very gentle light hitting. And then that slowly progresses them back up. And it does vary. You know, for some people, that's a matter of weeks. For others, it might take a little longer, but it is never as long as 12 months. The exercises need to be continued for 12 months, but you're back on court way, way faster than that, for sure.
Excellent, excellent. We have Shinrin Yoku, amazing. I think that's the forest. Is it? It might be the forest walking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Love that. Let's see here. Excuse me. John, would walking a golf course count as forest bathing?
Absolutely. Yeah. You're doing cardio exercise. Walking absolutely counts. And you are out seeing green stuff all around you. So yes, definitely. As long as it doesn't irritate your elbow. That's the only caveat I'd put in there. But yes, it definitely counts.
Nice. Bruce here. John, how are you dressed? I wonder if that makes a difference. Let's see here. Tracy, are there certain types of forests/trees that provide the best forest bathing?
Gosh, that's a really interesting question. Not that I know of, no. So as long as you can see green things. I once had a client in Iceland, and it was the middle of winter, and I was recommending her to do forest bathing, and she's like, everything is covered in snow and ice. She's like, I can't see any green things. So so that was a little challenging, but you know, so she had like house plants, and she would like sort of, you know, really get close to her house plants and sort of really study them until she was able to get out and see green things outside. But I have not heard particularly any preference with that. I mean, forest bathing, you know, they did look at people being in the forest and sort of immersed in nature that way. Obviously that's not practical for everybody every single day, but like walking around the park, walking around the golf course, just being somewhere where you can see these things is going to be helpful at rebooting the brain.
Great stuff. Jason, do you recommend lighter or heavier rackets for players who have TE?
Yeah, great question. I mean, certainly it's going to be more comfortable for your elbow to go lighter at that point. Because, you know, one of the things that we have to do when we're strengthening is build up the strength. And we do start with very light weights. You know, sometimes people are amazed that we do start with 1, 2, 3 pound weights, you know, probably the highest I start somebody with. But then we do progress all the way up to the, you know, 12, 15, 20. So when you're in that early phase of rehab, when you are using light weights, or maybe you've not even reached the strengthening point yet, definitely would be saying lighter for sure, if you're still comfortable to play. You know, one of the things with a tendon problem like tennis elbow is every time you feel it, you are irritating it. And again, it's a downside because every time you feel it, you are irritating it. But it does tell you when you're doing something it doesn't like. You know, often I have clients who are actually quite surprised at what they can do pain-free. There are lots of things they can do pain-free, but if it's painful, it is then going to take longer for you to rehab it.
Got it, Emma. And we got a question from my email, actually, from Peggy. What are the exercises to do with weights?
Yeah, great question. So it's heavy load eccentric exercises are basically the exercises that heal tendons. You can go and do a YouTube search and you'll find a ton of these. Unfortunately, for tennis elbow, many of them actually make you worse because they either are doing a lot of gripping. So there's certain exercises that involve gripping. Any kind of gripping activity is going to pull on the tendon. So I don't give gripping exercises. Other weighted exercises that you'll find will take you through a full range of motion. And so in fact, I got an email this week from a tennis player in the UK who, again, had been one of these that I've rehabbed, I feel okay, I just cannot get back on court. She was too light, but she was also doing the exercise incorrectly. So I'm going to show you very basically here. Normally, when I teach these exercises, I'm resting my arm on a table or a desk because you want the arm to be relaxed down. If I'm holding my arm up, I've already got a little bit of tension in my muscles here. And obviously we've talked extensively about bringing the muscle tension down. So just for demonstration purposes, imagine I'm holding a dumbbell. She was doing these very standard wrist curls up and down, up and down, up and down. Now, one of these movements, the up or the down, will irritate you. One of them will heal you. And so when you're going up and down, up and down, up and down, it's make it worse, make it better, make it worse, make it better. You're not going to get better because you're just counteracting the good. So what you need to do is to use your other hand to lift up because it's the lifting up that pulls on the tendon. And then it's lowering down by itself. Lifting up, lowering down, lifting up, lowering down. And that's the exercise. So it's eccentric. So it's that one part of the movement that we use to settle that basically heals the tendon.
Excellent, Emma. So I want to let you, to continue, I guess, because, obviously we've already almost hour 15. But yeah, so feel free to keep going with anything else that you want to educate, and then we'll go back to questions if we have time.
Yeah, definitely. So, I've already said that the faster you get help for your tennis elbow, the faster it will heal. And sometimes this is a hard part too, because so many people kind of think, it starts just a little niggle. It's just a little something. What did I do? And, you don't pay very much attention to it because it's not that bad. And then you suddenly realize 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks later, it's still there. It's not settled down. So, maybe then it starts to get a little worse. Maybe then you start feeling it when you're picking up your coffee cup or your bottle of water, and it's just letting you know that it's hanging around. And so generally at about 3 months in, people then decide that it's now bothering me every time I play. I'm starting to feel it when I'm in the car, I'm doing things. That's when they go and see the doc. So the faster you can get treatment, the faster we can settle it down. If it's before 3 months, it's really fast to get rid of it. So you can be, back on court, within 3 months, easily playing completely pain-free. The longer you've had it, the more other things can be involved, and then the longer it takes to rehab. 3 months is kind of like, it's almost like the golden opportunity of that first 3 months. If we miss it, we can still heal it. There's just more stuff going on. We know we're dealing with chronic pain. We know we have to start looking at, okay, how is the shoulder involved? Is there any kind of carpal tunnel? How is the shoulder blade moving? We got to look at all those other things. So I would say if you're listening to me right now and you have a little niggle in your elbow and it's been less than 3 months, get it seen now, because it will be so much faster for you to resolve this now than to allow it to build up. Now, if it has been longer, it's never too late. I've worked with clients who've had tennis elbow for years. Literally like 7, 8, 9, 10 years. Just ridiculously long lengths of time. And we can still get them better. And it's absolutely within that 12-month framework, but there's always so much more going on. There's always so much more going on. And it takes dedication. As I said, it is multifactorial. I've taught you a couple of the exercises here. I've given you examples of some of the things that I have in phase 1 of my program. Phase 2, phase 3, we've talked about phase 4, how we would get back. So once it's established, there are all of these things that you need to address. Now you can do it, for sure you can do it, and I'm there to kind of guide people through, but it definitely takes dedication. and you have to be working at it. And because it can take a longer time, people get very discouraged, and they may have been to therapy and been for 6 weeks and said, well, it didn't make any difference. Well, because you're such at that start of the journey, and there are other things that you need to be doing as well and keep going. So that's why I developed my program, so that I could help more people all around the world. And it's also why I wrote my book. So I'm going to show you that. I wrote the book, Tennis Elbow Relief, Serving Up Solutions for Tennis Elbow. And you can get that on Amazon, because I knew people needed that guidance, and I knew they needed to know, why do they have to consider all these different things? Why have things not worked for them? That's probably one of the biggest things people will say is, I've tried everything, didn't work for me. And obviously from what you've heard me say today, you'll know that they probably have not tried forest bathing and they've probably not tried meditation, because not many people do advocate that for tennis elbow. Now, these strategies are really essentially for chronic pain. So if you have back pain, if you have neck pain, if you have shoulder pain, if it's your hip, your knee, your foot, your ankle, whatever, these basic principles will work because they are for pain. So you can follow these principles. And actually, that's why my next book coming out is generally about pain. So it's just the principles are exactly the same. If you hear me say elbow and it's your back, just switch them out, because they are essentially the same when we're looking at those principles. Then when we kind of move into phase 2 and we're looking at decreasing the muscle tension, there are very specific things we do. You've learned that today. We do tennis elbow stretch this way. We do golfer's elbow stretch this way. There's a different stretch for biceps tendon problems, for triceps tendon problems. So it depends on where the issue is, and there's a different specific stretch for each of those. I'll also teach people soft tissue techniques so that they can do that themselves. The beauty of working with tennis elbow clients, which I absolutely love, is the fact that this can be done virtually. And that became evident to me actually before the pandemic. One of my best friends in the UK is a field hockey player. So you can imagine, she hits the ball with a stick. And she developed tennis elbow by being in lockdown. And I think she was laying a patio, like doing gardening outside. And she developed tennis elbow. So we worked together over Zoom, and within 3 months, she was back on the hockey pitch, playing hockey completely fine. So it's like, actually, this works virtually. This is great. This is not geographically limiting. This is wonderful. I can give people information and they can heal themselves. I can teach people how to do the soft tissue techniques. I can teach people how to do the exercises, because it's really easy. Your elbow is accessible. You can get to it. It's not like, if it was a mid-back issue, it's a little more challenging to get to that, but we have ways that we work. But it's great that I can get this information out to people. Now, the strengthening phase 3, we talked about the core exercise, because I definitely give people that to do, because it's essential that they are at the best physical peak that they can be at before they go back playing, so we don't irritate something else. And then we do the heavy load eccentrics. That's the exercise that needs to be done for a full 12 months. The heavy load eccentrics is your 12-month exercise. And we combine that with the stretches. And then phase 4, we talk all about getting back into your every single activity you want to do, no restrictions. I used to hear people say, oh, I've got tennis elbow, I'll never get back to that. It's like, no, that's not acceptable. There is no reason why anybody with tennis elbow shouldn't be able to get back to everything that they want to do. And we also address the nerves in phase 4. If there are specific mobilizations that we need to do for the nerves, that comes in phase 4, and it settles everything down.
Great stuff. Thanks a lot, Emma. It's great information. We have a bunch of other questions. Let's see here. Any thoughts on Pails and Rails movement for this? Do you know what that stands for? Because I had to Google it.
No.
Yeah, I'll read the description. It says it's an isometric loading protocol created by Dr. Spina. In other words, this is when we are stretching and contracting the muscles that are being lengthened / stretched, followed by the opposing muscles to pull us deeper into the stretch.
Okay, so there are a couple of things here. Isometric contraction is something that I will give people if they are super irritated and can't tolerate an eccentric contraction, because we know it's the eccentric contraction that heals the tendon. If somebody can't tolerate the eccentric contraction, I will sometimes give isometrics. I've probably done that, I don't know, twice, maybe 3 times in 13 years. So it's not often that people need an isometric contraction. So Pails and Rails, it sounds like it is sort of contract, relax, which is a technique that where we use the physiology of the muscles to get a deeper relaxation. Now, I use progressive relaxation in my phase 1, which, overarching sort of pain relieving strategies that anybody can utilize. Progressive relaxation, I utilize this to get that relaxation. So this is kind of using that strategy. The theory is that when you do a maximum contraction of a muscle, you get maximum relaxation afterwards. So using progressive relaxation, we can do maximum contractions of the muscles to then get the maximum relaxation. Progressive relaxation basically either starts from the top of your head and works your way down, or the tips of your toes and works your way up. It's a strategy that I recommend people do at nighttime when they go to bed, and it's for relaxing the muscles. It also helps to calm the mind as well. So it is sort of one of these mind-body techniques, and it does work to get that relaxation. I advise people to do it at nighttime because if they fall asleep, then that's fine. They're in bed. It's something that I occasionally will use myself if I can't sleep, which doesn't happen very often. But if there's, for some reason I can't sleep, I will use progressive relaxation. And so basically I start from the tips of my toes and work up. And so imagine you're lying in bed, you curl your toes around as much as you can, and you're going to hold it tight, 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 release. And then you're going to pull your toes back as much as you can. You hold that tight, 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 release. So you're going to essentially go through every single muscle group that you can. So you'd point your toes down, you would pull your heels back, you would press your knees down, so you're tightening your glutes, you would squeeze your butt, you would pull your tummy in. So you can see that you're kind of working up your body with the different muscle groups. You do a 10-second contraction, followed by this release, followed by that drop. And it is very much a drop. And you can feel the tension releasing out of your limbs, out of your body. When you get that drop, it's like, oh, that's what relaxation is. You hadn't realized quite how tight everything had been. And so progressive relaxation is in phase 1. And it's for that reason, to get that maximum relaxation. Sometimes it can be uncomfortable to do a full sort of tight fist if you have tennis elbow. So it's okay to leave that out if it's uncomfortable, because again, remember, everything I give you should be completely pain-free. Nothing should bring on pain. But working through all of those can definitely give you that muscle relaxation. But again, just with that caveat that it is pain-free. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Emma. So I want to give you, I guess, a chance, because I know it's like already hour and a half, but to let you, finish up or just keep presenting, I guess, and then we can go back to questions for a little bit, and then I have to prep for our 2:00 live stream. So yeah.
Yes.
There we go.
Yeah, I know. I'm so sorry I was late on, and then obviously.
Oh no.
You wind me up and off I go. I can talk forever.
Yeah, I love it. No, I love it. If I didn't have it 2:00, we could just go to like 4.
Yes. Yeah, I wanted to let everybody know that, feeling tennis elbow is not normal. It's not something you should put up with. It's not something that everybody feels, when they do that one-handed backhand. You shouldn't be. You shouldn't be feeling tennis elbow. There are things that you can do to settle it down. Obviously, I'm here. I'm more than happy to be a resource for you guys, for sure. I've already mentioned, the book. You can get the book on Amazon anywhere in the world. I think it's been to 20 different countries already. So feel free to get the book, Tennis Elbow Relief, Serving Up Solutions for Lateral Epicondylitis by Emma Green. It's on Amazon. The book is interactive. So because obviously you can tell I can talk a lot, and there's a lot to tennis elbow. So I couldn't get my comprehensive tennis elbow program has 50 videos in it. It like covers every single aspect. It covers shoulder impingement, it covers neck problems, it covers the core, it covers everything. So I couldn't get all of that into my book because it would have been like, I don't know, 7 encyclopedias or something. It would have been just enormous. So what we did is we put the basics in the book, and then there's a video series that goes with it. So there's a little link inside the book. You sign up for the bonuses, you get the videos that you need at a certain time. We go through phase 1, we go through phase 2, we go through phase 3. You get the videos, you get the resources straight to your inbox as you're working your way through the book. So use that. That could be immensely helpful to you if you just, there's a little something going on and you can just nip it in the bud yourself. The other thing that I wanted to offer was, if I know we've gone through so many different things in this session today, if you want to be going over and watching this back, obviously, you can upgrade to the All Access Pass, and I hope you all have. If you upgrade through my special link, I'm going to throw in my 10 video series of Get Out of Pain Fast. So this basically goes through it's 10 videos. And it's 10 different strategies. It might even be 11 different strategies. I think the first one covers 2 of things that I've talked about today, that everything that's in phase 1 of my comprehensive program, but is very overarching general chronic pain relieving advice. So I'm going to give you that for free. If you sign up for the All Access Pass through my special link, and you can access that through my Instagram at Tennis Elbow Queen, or on Facebook, Emma Green, Tennis Elbow Queen. So either of those places you can access my special link. You upgrade to the All Access Pass, I will send you that 10 video series at no additional cost. You can get that as well. So if you want to reach out to me, if anybody has questions, I love questions. You can probably tell. I love answering questions. You can access me at emma@tenniselbowqueen.com. I'm more than happy to answer anybody's questions, so feel free to reach out. Sometimes it can just be like, oh, I wonder what about that? Send me an email. More than happy to answer questions. But this has been so fun. I've really enjoyed sharing this with you, and I would really love to know from people, because I know when I go to a conference or when I listen to a training, it's like I'm looking for the nugget. I'm looking for the gold nugget. I would really love to hear from people today. What's your biggest takeaway? What is the thing that you're going to leave this session with that you're kind of like, that was your aha moment, or sort of the most beneficial thing that I've said today? What has that been? I would love to hear that.
Awesome. And I was just replying to Richard that he asked a question about golfer's elbow and what exercise, but I told him to watch the replay because you basically did the opposite exercise, and that will help, obviously. Yeah. So awesome, great stuff. And I put Emma's link here as well in the chat, so you can just click on that and you will get Emma's awesome bonus. Really appreciate that, Emma. Fantastic stuff. Yeah, and let's see what else we got. I mean, we have Jay. Look, Emma is a great presenter. It's been very helpful and insightful. Love to hear that. Richard said, "Great job, many thanks." Jason Bourne said, "This session alone is worth the summit upgrade." So that's awesome. Love to hear that. Great job. Artie said, "Great stuff. Enjoying a lot. Thanks." Fantastic. Let's see what else. Hello from Iceland, Artie. Excellent presentation. We're enjoying and learning a lot. Greatly appreciated. And you mentioned Iceland, so it's funny. Awesome. I think we'll try to take like a couple more if you have time, I guess.
Absolutely. Great. I'm here.
Great. Okay, thanks a lot. Let's see. We have one that says, "My golfer's elbow is coming from my wrist hitting up on the serve." Is that something you've seen?
Yeah, we always kind of look, when we're looking at the elbow, it's kind of like, okay, is it something higher up here, or is it something lower down here? And definitely, if you're kind of really using that wrist and really cranking on that wrist, that definitely can irritate through the elbow. Now, the stretch that I went through before, I'm going to do it again. The golfer's elbow stretch.
Sure.
Your palm is up, fingers go down, we go palm to palm, and we're going to stretch this way. But then remember, let's be kind to the shoulder and the nerves just by taking it down, so we're not irritating the nerves. Now, see how that feels for your wrist. You know, if your wrist is irritated, you might struggle to do that initially. And then we would need to look at, okay, how can we make that easier for you? The other thing that sometimes can be helpful, you know, we were talking about braces before, and obviously I'm not a big fan of braces. I mean, certain situations they can be helpful, but sometimes something like kinesio tape in a situation like that can sometimes be beneficial. So with kinesio tape, you know, I would generally see, are you feeling symptoms around the wrist? You know, do we need to put it there as well to affect the wrist, or are we just going to be putting it higher up over the elbow? Sometimes just putting some kinesio tape over that can be beneficial. When we're doing kinesio tape is very different to athletic tape. You know, athletic trainer tape is very stiff. There's no giving it whatsoever. Kinesio tape has lots of stretch, and so when you're putting kinesio tape on, we put it on in a specific way, and you can allow it to sort of take the tension off the tissues. Because you've got golfer's elbow, you would want to anchor your kinesio tape up towards the wrist, and then put a little bit of tension coming down this way so that you're taking the tension off the tendon. If you anchor it at the elbow and pull up, you're going to be pulling on that tendon. But that was the thing that kind of jumped into my head when you were mentioning that. It's like, that's what I would try. I would try that and just see if it helps take the tension off. Hope that helps.
Perfect. Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, Emma. A couple more we'll take. Let's see, it's some more of a comment, I think. Quick insight: most tennis-related injuries can be avoided by learning proper stroke mechanics, cut down on MPH, and increase proper technique.
Yeah,
that is great.
Absolutely, and just the value of coaches. You know, again, just watching the sessions through the summit. You know, really tap into the expertise and the knowledge that these people have, because, you know, they've been in the game, they know what they're talking about. Listen to what they're telling you with these different 100%. Tips and tricks, because they absolutely can really help with that for sure.
Brilliant. Thanks, Emma. Definitely 100%. Steve, with chronic mild lateral epicondylar soreness, should I stop using a tennis elbow brace? Can you review stretching, strengthening exercises? Came in late.
Yeah, definitely. You are going to love the rest of the session because we have been through all of this. But briefly, a brace is helpful to take the strain off the tendon, but it will weaken your muscle and will make it last longer. So I don't advocate braces unless it's a very specific activity that you're doing for a very short period of time, such as moving house. Stretching for tennis elbow is going to be arm out, palm is down. Fingers go down to the floor, palm goes to the back of your hand, and you're going to pull in through the wrist here, and we're going to take it down again, so we take the strain off the shoulder and the nerves. Don't be kind of pulling the fingers around. That's not going to give you any additional benefit, and it's just going to crank on your nerves as well. The strengthening is heavy load eccentrics, and it's done very specifically. You need to be resting your arm on a surface like a desk or a table. So a little aside, I used to teach this on the arm of a chair because it would be really easy. Someone's sitting by the arm of the chair and they could do their exercises on the arm of the chair. However, it's very asymmetrical. And we know tennis is an asymmetrical sport anyway. So we don't want you to be asymmetrical when you're doing your exercises, because what was happening was people were coming back and telling me, oh, my elbow feels great, but my back is killing me, because I was putting them into this asymmetrical position. So we don't do that anymore. We keep it right in front of you, but it needs to be resting on a desk or a table or a countertop, something that is comfortable, shoulders not kind of pushed up, just a nice, comfortable position for you. You want to try and keep the weight as close to your center of gravity as possible. Center of gravity is your belly button. So the closer that weight is to your center of gravity, the kinder it is on your spine. And we're going to lift up and lower down, lift up and lower down. We start light. So some clients will even start unweighted with this because they just cannot even tolerate a weight, but maximum 3 pounds. And then we get all the way up to 12 pounds plus, maybe 15, 20, 25, depending on your symptoms.
Perfect. Thanks. And I think we'll do one last one here. Sam, I suffer from chronic tennis elbow. So, what would you advise to help it recover quickly and heal properly?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, you're gonna love this entire
Mhm.
presentation. It's a multifactorial problem, and that is the issue. You know, so many people just look at the elbow, just look at the tendon, but if you're not addressing the shoulder, the neck, particularly if it's chronic, these things all need to be addressed as well as the nervous system. So all the strategies for calming the nervous system down need to be implemented. All of the strategies for settling the neck, opening up the nerves. I gave the exercise where you're pushing back, the chin tuck, the kind of pressing back into the pillow. That's going to open the nerves, open the holes in the spine that the nerves come out of, takes the pressure off the nerves, allows them to settle, as well as the elbow specific stretches, strengthening work, and certainly some soft tissue work. I teach soft tissue techniques, soft tissue massage, as well as trigger point release. And again, it's super simple because you can do it yourself. You know, it's a very easy area to get hold of. And so you can utilize all of these techniques yourself. The hard part about it being chronic is you do have to address these other things. You do have to do some core work. You likely are going to need to do some shoulder exercises because you may have a shoulder impingement. There may be weakness around the shoulder blade. There may be rotator cuff issues, and these all need to be addressed as well. So it kind of becomes bigger the longer you've had it. And I know that that's hard, but know that if you do the right things, it will heal within 12 months and you won't be feeling it that length of time. You know, you will be pain-free much, much faster, but you have to implement these strategies in the correct order. If you try and jump straight into doing the strength work and you miss out phase 1 and phase 2, you fail. And I do see people who say to me, well, I tried the strength exercises, they made me worse. And it's because they hadn't brought the muscle tension down first. Strength work takes muscle tension up. You know that. You know, if you do a bicep curl, that the tension in the muscle increases. So we know that we're going to increase the muscle tension when we do strength work. That muscle tension's already up because you're suffering. Because you're in pain, that muscle tension is up. Because the nervous system is hypersensitized, the muscle tension is up. If we add a strength exercise onto that, it's going to take it through the roof. You're going to be uncomfortable. You're going to stop doing it and say, it didn't work for me. So that's why we spend so much time bringing it all down, normalizing the muscle tension so that we can safely add in the strength work at the correct time. Hope that makes
Got
sense.
it. And yeah, 100%. And I see Holly in here, my friend, so we'll have to take this on. Do you have any different suggestions for those with previous injuries? I have a previous major elbow injury. It included a dislocation and multiple fractures, including lateral epigonal, sorry,
That's
fracture. So what do you think there?
Yeah, that definitely is way more complex. You know, the elbow is such a simple joint in some respects. It's like, it's a hinge. That's what the elbow does. But any kind of injury to the elbow, and particularly when we start talking about fractures, it is a very temperamental joint. It can be very challenging to get the full range of motion back in the elbow, and it can be very challenging to strengthen. So particularly in a case like that, you know, I would be looking at strengthening all of the muscle groups around there. And again, there are specific ways that I would strengthen through the biceps and strengthen through the triceps, just to be very kind to that elbow. Looking at, you know, probably starting you with a sort of heavy load eccentric exercises for those muscle groups as well, before adding in more concentric and more general sort of weight bearing exercises as well. So there'll be a multitude of things, but for sure with that type of history, I would be looking at your shoulder blade and how is the shoulder blade moving? Is it moving normally? Are there any anomalies there that you need to work on as well? Because there could well be. There may be issues through the rotator cuff as well. There may be core, there may be even deep neck flexor. So deep neck flexor muscles are essentially the core muscles for the neck. Like we think of the abdominals or the deep abdominal as the core for the low back. We have a similar set of muscles in the neck. You know, all of these probably need addressing and sort of working on as well. But when it becomes sort of more complex like that, there's a lot going on, and everything needs to be taken into consideration.
Awesome. Love that. Thanks so much, Emma. I really appreciate it. And thanks so much for all the questions. So I put Emma's link here one more time to get her bonuses with your purchase of the All Access Pass if you haven't gotten it yet. And yeah, I just can't thank you, Emma, and everybody else watching enough. So I hope you enjoyed it. I know you did. We got a lot of great comments. Thanks. I appreciate it. Definitely. So yeah, thanks, Emma. I'm sure we'll be in contact again soon, and we'll see you all hopefully in like 15 minutes for the next live stream. So thanks everyone. Thank you, Emma, and see you soon.
Thanks so much, Mervan. Take care, everyone.
Take care.